Hey guys, my name is Nina Means. I'm the director for Austin Community College Fashion Incubator, and you're here for Workshop Wednesdays. So this is a time whenever we typically get together once a week to talk about some element that we want to kind of unpack for you regarding what we do in the fashion industry. So we've been going over product development here as a cycle, as a process of what happens during the development creation of product, right? You want to be able to make not just one piece, but you want to be able to make it so that you can make multiple pieces. We take ourselves through a process called the product development cycle for us to be able to unpack what's actually needed in order to bring that product to market. And so we do a variety of things from the concept to design to evaluating that design on a number of different merits, whether it's cost, or with the viability in the market in terms of like, do people want to purchase this? Is it commercial right now? Is this trending? Is this appropriate for what's happening in the industry? Or does it solve a problem that we really want to put out into the market? Is the value and the cost appropriate? So does the garment meet the expectations of the customer for the price that you're looking for? And then it's a design aesthetic. Is it a beautiful product? You know, we are creative in our business. And so, you know, a lot of this has to do with, is this something that's truly beautiful and something that we really want to move forward with into, you know, just a general population? Will people enjoy purchasing this, wearing this? So much of what we do in fashion is so psychologically based. You know, the things that we put on our body really start to speak more about how we feel about ourselves and what we think about ourselves. So much so that at times we forget that this is actually a $1 trillion industry, that people are building business around what it is that we perceive as our own needs to be able to express ourselves. And those are legitimate, those are real needs. But as we're looking at this product development cycle and looking at where we are in the process of the cycle, I wanted to kind of reset our intentions of what it is that we're trying to gain from this time. What we really want to get to is a sample or product that we can recreate. That's all we're looking for. So with that, I'm going to jump into our content for the day. I'm going to show you some things here. We're also going to share with you some of our content from our technology partner, Gerber Technology. They just had their huge conference virtually in multiple languages last week, and it was an incredible time, the Ideation Conference for 2020. And we learned a lot about what's possible and how to shorten this development cycle with a much more targeted product while maintaining your profit. So that's really key. So one of the things that I want to do here is I want to spend a little bit of time just reminding you of where we came from. We talked about the concept and design, the sketch review meeting, the tech pass, the first prototype, and what we need to do in order to take a look at that. The first prototype evaluation. So what are some of the possible things that may happen to this sample once it's become a sample? And then this approved sample for design. So once we've said that the sample is approved for design, from a design perspective, it means that there's really no changes that need to happen to that particular sample. I believe that I mentioned to you before how important it was for us to be able to have the conversation around updating that bill of materials. So I showed that to you the last time because there can be very key errors that happen during that moment if you don't take the time to update what you see with what you requested and to make sure those things match up. So I showed you a little bit of the insides of a product lifecycle management program so that you could see what that looked like in that space. Then what we are going to look at now is there's something with these fittings. So now we've got, you know, the exact fabric that we want. We know how the garment is approved for the profit, it's approved for the design, it's approved for the feasibility and production. And now it's time for us to go through and actually fit the garment to make sure that it's appropriate for our customer. A lot of times what people typically do is they pick a fit model that looks like them. And you may not be your ideal customer. Whenever I designed for some brands, our ideal customer was 5'5" and around 135 pounds. That was the average customer. That was literally just the average person who shopped at that particular place. Now that customer may be 5'5" and 155 pounds. There's just been a shift in the way that the human body looks and feels. And, you may say, that doesn't sound like anyone I know, but it's an average. So if you think about the age range and who else is shopping in that store, it may be skewed based on the variety of different kinds of customers who come in. I've worked with several brands that have a very wide range of people who actually shop there, even though their target audience is quite narrow. So these are all things to kind of consider about why you may see some differences in what the average customer may look like for a particular brand. Nevertheless, they're your customers and they're the ones who purchase from you. So it behooves you to take the time to understand who's shopping with me, what sizes are going, what do they like to buy from me, and why. What are some of the things that may change the way that may make them feel a certain way in these clothes. And so you may want to test some of that in the least expensive way you can think of. We can talk about that another time about testing product. But essentially, whenever you're looking at choosing the right fit and being able to actually fit that garment, it's really key for you to look at what your true average sizes are of your paying customers, and then setting that as your middle. If you're like, well, I just started, I don't really have a middle, you may want to look at what are the average sizes of the people who find you interesting, who find what you're doing interesting, who you project may also be purchasing from you, and what their attributes may be, what things they like about themselves, what things they don't like about themselves. All of these things will kind of contribute to what the actual design is, but more importantly, what the fittings need to look like. I work for another brand where we would fit on what we call a Missy size. And Missy is really just whatever you would consider regular sizing. So we're using the words that we know, but regular is not really regular anymore. The true average size now is a size 14. So if you're wondering, most people are wearing a size large these days. And so, or even an extra large. So just be aware of that whenever you're setting your size ranges and who your intended customer target is, and what that may entail in terms of changes to your armhole size or the length or the size of your sleeve. Sometimes people are not going to want a really tight or slim sleeve. They're going to want something a little bit looser, or maybe the armhole is too tight. And so all of these things are coming out in the fittings, and it's an opportunity for you to take a look at what's happening with that approved design sample that may make that sample completely unsaleable if you don't get this part right. You could do all of this work and completely ruin it in fittings and not sell a single sample. Yes, this is key. This is so important for you to really understand how important your fit is, and for people to identify with knowing whether or not they should come to you because they are your ideal customer or not. I'm sure you've had this experience where you've taken the time to find your perfect pair of denim, or your perfect pair of pants, and you say, that pants company gets me. They know where my curves are. They know how I like my pants to fit, whether you're men or women. And I don't have to do too much extra to it in order for me to be able to put the pants on. I don't have to think too hard, when it comes to this particular garment. And so you continue to purchase from them because the price is right, the quality is right, the fit is right. The price is right, the quality is right, the fit is right. These things are really, really important. And if you don't nail this, you won't sell anything. If you don't nail it, you won't sell. And so this is really where we want to really focus on how the product development process comes to be for you guys. So the fitting here, the process that we typically go through, I'm going to remind you guys of some of our sample updates, but we would go through what we call a first fitting. And sometimes that first fitting may come in with the actual approved design sample. So say you got the sample in the mail, and it was the one that was approved from the proto review meeting, and it actually has everything on it that it's supposed to. It came in within the tolerance of the specifications you requested, like the measurements that it was supposed to have. It has all the right fabric, it has all the right trim, and it was even done in one of the colors that you selected. Pretty awesome. That typically does not happen, by the way. That typically does not happen. Your prototype is usually never appropriate for an actual fitting. That's been my personal experience. I've had to request a fit sample because then the factory isn't just concerned about, making it look a certain way, but now they're saying based on the measurements, this is exactly what it is. And then I have to go back and evaluate that sample to see what came in tolerance and what did not come in tolerance. Every time a fit sample comes in, it has to be evaluated. It has to be evaluated against what you requested so you know what it is that you're looking at. Because if you say, I've made these requests, and then you take a look at the sample and you say, I love what I see in the sample, and then you find out that the sample was not what you put in your tech pack and all of your production follows your tech pack, all of that work you did is for nothing. All of that work you did completely goes out the window. And so it's really important at this phase to take your time and evaluate everything that you receive from the factory very closely. It's not malintent. It is not that someone is out to get you. It's literally just because people make mistakes. People make mistakes, and there are a lot of people it takes to bring product to market. And so there's a lot of different people who could possibly make mistakes. And so you just take the time to dot your I's and cross your T's. There's a reason why this is a $1 trillion business and why you can also lose a lot of money in this business very, very quickly. And most of the time it's because of lack of precision. And so whenever you lack precision in these various steps, you can find opportunities to have done some things better, or you may find other opportunities to improve some of your costing, especially if something doesn't come across correctly during the fitting. If you're looking at it, you're like, hey, we can actually take out a little bit more of the volume from this without disturbing the style. Still looks great, still looks like what we approved, but now the cost is improved because we're not using as much fabric. That's a great opportunity. Or, in the fitting, you may find that there's a design element that everyone thought was fantastic in the proto review meeting. Everyone signed off on it and thought it was amazing, but then you get it on an actual human being and they tell you, this hurts. This hurts the way it's designed right here. That has legitimately happened to us before. And if we got all the way to the floor, if we got all the way to the sales floor with that pain point, literally, it would still not sell. So even though we all three groups signed off and said, this is amazing, we love this particular product, it still could get past without going through the fit process, something that could really prevent it from being sold. And so it's really key, or even understanding the proportion. So at times during a proto review meeting, I'm not really sure why we do this, but it's a common practice. A lot of times during a proto review meeting, you have more of like an editorial model. That editorial model, actually I do know exactly why we do this. There's an editorial style model that may not be a fit model in the proto review meeting. A lot of times this is because design is trying to sell the idea to the business partners. And a lot of times that has to do with aesthetics and beauty and, some of the other things. And so we may put those samples and pin them out and do things that, are not necessarily representative of the exact style. However, it communicates an attitude and a mood that may reflect the brand aesthetic. And so decisions are made based on, does the garment reflect the brand aesthetic and can we afford to bring it to market? And that's it. But then design has to go back with our technical design team and pattern makers and all of that to make sure that garment actually works in real life. So there's the Instagram version and then there's the in real life. So if you guys want to think about your proto review meeting as Instagram versus IRL, your IRL is literally what's happening in the fitting. Okay, so we've already sold the dream. The dream looks beautiful. It's got, sparkles and people are, sprinkling dust all over that. And then you come over to the fitting and you're saying, okay, but can you wear it? Is it comfortable? Is this material that we think is a really good cost option still doing the work of like the stretch? Does it like snap back and make you feel good? Can you sit down in this? All of these big questions are being answered during the fitting. And if we have several rounds of the fittings and say the garment needs to be updated based on these comments, we'll go into the first fit, of course, but then we'll go into a second fit and sometimes a third fit. But sometimes if you get that far, sometimes it's just not savable. But there's already been a commitment made toward that style. So what we want to do is to actually take the time to fix it. And I've gotten to dire situations with certain brands where we've been trying to get back to normal. And if those documents were not accurately captured throughout the process, it's really, really difficult to recall or to simulate what happened at the initial yes. You want to keep track of all of those things. And so all of the fittings, all the things that I'm showing you here about keeping track of all of your details is really key. I'm also going to remind you about our product lifecycle management software, Unique PLM. This is a really great way to capture this information. And they also have some additional, products that help us with actual doing sample management. But I'll show you a little bit of what's available in PLM here in just a moment. But basically you'll go through the first fit, the second fit, and then what we call pre-production. So that pre-production sample is really where we're saying, this is it, guys, we landed on the sample. This is what we can make. We believe in this. It is a contract sample. It is getting ready to go into production. So pre-production sample, that pre-prod, PP. You may hear people say, oh, have you seen the PP sample? Pre-production, that's what that means. Pre-production sample before production happens. This is what we want to get to so that we're able to initiate the production process. So what I did was I just kind of brought back just a little bit of, do you remember when we did this at the beginning? The very, very beginning of this series, we looked at the development sampling stages. And so we talked about the prototype. We talked about, if you do a salesman sample or a photo shoot sample, these are still kind of in that editorial space of what's going to sell this garment and get people excited about wearing it. But now we're in real life. We're at the fit sample stage before we go into pre-production. And then we're going to go push into production and create a lot of different versions of this for other people to enjoy. But right now, we're really concerned about that fit sample. There's going to be one more thing that I want to kind of mention to you guys about the fit section, and that's something that we call size set. So size set, sometimes this has happened a couple of different ways. I've seen size set come back after the beginning of the production run has started, and that's always scared me a bit, because if you're working in a high volume business, there could already be, a very small batch of units against that. And then you've got a wastage issue, potentially. A lot of times what I see is that you'll do a size set kind of as you're going into this phase. So you get a pre-production sample, and then you go into, the top of production and just run all of the sizes and double check them before you go into the full run. Because what you don't want to do is to get into the entire production line and find that all of your size 6s or all of your size 10s are botched somehow, or that your customer who wears the size 14 is feeling self-conscious because only on that size does it look different on them than it looks on everyone else. And so what we do at size set, and this has been the most eye-opening moment, I think, during my design career, is we take a look at that same style across several different body sizes on actual fit models. And we get comments from women who are a size 0 all the way to a size 18. If you're working in plus size, we do the same thing. Like we will do, maybe we'll do one in the average Missy size and one in the average plus size. And we take a look at those samples on both women or on 4 women or men, depending on what kind of product you're working on. and we look at it across the board and we say, does this look like the same product that we started off with? This is really important for us to be able to evaluate how these things look. And so we want to know what tweaks do I need to make at different sizes that may not be reflected in maybe the grade rules, which is how we determine sizes. That helps me to make those quick adjustments so that it looks consistent across the board. This is the kindest thing I think we do in fashion, is to make sure that everyone feels like they got the same thing. Nobody likes to feel like they got excluded for the wrong reason, or that something didn't come back looking as nice on them as it did on someone else. We are self-conscious for many reasons, and we shouldn't be adding to that in the way that the product fits. So, but whether you're a size 2 or a size 22, we want to say that the product looks the same on everyone. And so this is an opportunity during this time to be able to make those kinds of changes. So I think that this is kind of where I was telling you guys about that before, the size set or size run. A lot of times this is kind of just double checking, but I've actually seen this happen a bit earlier in the process to make sure, and then the TOP, I actually have seen it come after this. I know it sounds a little backwards, but it's like, here's what the first thing in production comes off as, and then the size set or size run. But typically you want to be able to do it where you can affect change. If you just take a look at it and you can't do anything about it, there's not a lot of reason to do it. Typically, these are very minor tweaks. These are not wholesale changes because typically the grade rules are correct at this point, and you shouldn't be having to completely reinvent the wheel at this point. So ideally, there may just be some very small incremental changes that may not be as perceptible. However, some customers can see it, and you want to make sure that you've taken the time to do this. So I'm going to close this out here, but I do want to get a chance to share with you one more thing from Gerber Technology. Has this beautiful, unique PLM system. I believe you can see this now. And this is something that we really love utilizing because this is what helps us stay. Let me make sure you can't see my little notifications here. These are my. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to log on to the Gerber Unique PLM system. And this is really kind of an opportunity to be able to see some things here in the sampling space. So you wouldn't, you may not have everything captured in this moment, but you can actually look at your quick sample search or quick sample history. I actually don't have mine set up right now because I didn't need to have everything in here just yet. However, I do want to show you, there's a few things like where you can look at sample type, and you see here, fit sample, proto sample, and a virtual sample. So I actually have the ability to see just the fit sample details, the proto sample, which is that first one, the proto sample details, and then the virtual sample. So this is like if I was doing like a 3D sample and I wanted to share this from the AccuMark 3D system, there's an opportunity for me to actually just take a look at the virtual sample and see what the details are on that. And I can actually do a light fit test in the virtual space using a heat map on the avatars. What I'll do is I'll show that to you guys another time. It's a really cool feature, and I think it's gonna be something that you guys will really want to be able to utilize. But the sample status here kind of shows you additional information here, like if you just received it, or if it's approved with corrections. So you like it, but you want to tell them we need to do some additional things like a remake sample. If it's just approved and we're ready to move forward, or if it's dropped and it says, you know what, this is not going to work. This is where we would get a chance to say this. We can put in the due dates of when the sample should be arrived and who it's going to be assigned to. In the description, we may have some additional information regarding the style category. So if you're reviewing several, say you've got a small collection or a capsule, you're going to get a chance to take a look at, evaluating all your samples by style category. So it may be bottoms or dresses or intimates or jewelry, knit tops, sweaters, woven tops. So it's going to give you an opportunity to categorize what it is that you're working on. The size class, whether you're doing women's or Missy, gives you a variety of different options there. Your size ranges based on what you want your products to be. If there's a partner or an agent that you're working with, the material and the color. So these are really great opportunities. And you'll actually want to number your samples. So it won't be just enough for you to have a style number. You're also going to want a sample number too. So I wanted to just kind of give you guys an update about what was possible. This is a really exciting system, and I believe that, you know, as you guys get more access to what it is that we do here at the Incubator, we look forward to bringing you into a lot of this content regarding the AccuMark series, as well as the product lifecycle management software. We'll be focusing mostly on the PLM system because it is cloud-based. And then as we are opening up on campus, we'll also bring you into more of the AccuMark 2D and 3D pattern design software programs. But I can give you a glimpse inside of what it can do here on Workshop Wednesdays, and then we'll let you know whenever you can come join us for a full workshop. So you'll be looking for a full workshop for the PLM here shortly. You're gonna love it. It's gonna help you work so much more efficiently. But then you'll also get an opportunity to learn all about, you get an opportunity to learn all about the AccuMark 2D and 3D pattern design software. So guys, if you have any questions for us, feel free to reach out to us on our email. You'll see all of that information provided here shortly. But again, guys, my name is Nina Means. I'm the director for Austin Community College Fashion Incubator, and this has been Workshop Wednesday.